Welcome to Council Fire with the RiverWinds. Your hosts, Chief Joseph and Dr. Laurelyn Riverwind, bring a First Nations perspective to scriptural studies, herbal medicine, current events, survival skill tips, and more. So, let's dive in.
Hi, Gway, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to Council Fire with the RiverWinds. We are your hosts. I'm Chief Joseph Riverwind.
And I'm Dr. Laurelyn Riverwind, and we have some very special guests. We are so excited to bring you today.
World famous.
So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Dave Jackson, and Laurelyn's going to tell you a little bit about Wendy Jackson. Dave Jackson was born and raised in Central Florida, an avid outdoorsman, and a Christian apologist. Not saying he's an apologizing Christian. Big difference between the two. He's married to Wendy Jackson. Together they have 5 kids, and recently they were blessed with their first grandson.
Woohoo!
Now, as a young boy, Dave was raised in the Assembly of God, Pentecostal to the core, until a life-changing encounter forever changed his walk with Christ. Now, professionally, Dave is an IT engineer for over 20 years at a large regional hospital in Central Florida, but now works for a solar company based out of Tennessee. The creators made all the energy that we need right there up in the sky. Being a semi-retirement job, it allows him and Wendy to travel, do mission work, and meet believers all over the country. And they've got some stories to tell about what the creator is doing among the people, not just here in this country, but also overseas. Now, since visiting Kenya for mission work several years ago, their goals and life dreams have changed drastically, and we're going to hear about some of that today as well.
Wendy Jackson grew up in rural Minnesota on a little house on the prairies style homestead.
Minnesota.
She opened 3 restaurants from scratch and completed studies in plant-based nutrition. She created a 10-week nutritional lifestyle course, which helped people successfully reverse cancer, multiple sclerosis, and diabetes. She purchased the business Perfect Pickler and began a lifetime study of gut health and fermentation. By the way, say that 20 times. Perfect Pickler, Perfect Pickler. Then Thrive for Good invited Wendy to Kenya, Africa to teach fermentation at their organic gardening center. This continued until Wendy was hired as content creator to work with a team to create an online course for the extreme poor all across the globe. This curriculum included organic gardening, nutritional education, herbal medicine, leadership skills, and income generation. Today, she lectures abroad, generating partners to join in the effort to end poverty by educating the extreme poor on becoming self-sufficient. Wendy has a love for all traditional skills and a passion to teach all people a simple, self-sufficient lifestyle. Y'all, I can't say enough good about these folks.
Yep.
We love them dearly, and we learn from them every time we're around them.
And sometimes even the most outrageous of things, like how to skin a deer using different methods.
There's more than one way to skin a deer.
There's more than one way to skin a deer.
So it is such a treat to introduce to you our precious friends and globe-trotting teachers and education in sustainable
healthy living.
Yes.
Honor to be here.
Homesteading experts. So here they are, Dave and Wendy Jackson.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Well done. Way to ground that bass in there, brother.
Well, thank
it's
you
an
all
honor
for your
to be
time
here,
and for
guys.
being here.
An honor to be here. Yes. Thank you.
An absolute honor to have you as some of our closest friends.
Oh, very,
It just
very close friends, yes.
absolute blessing
Yeah,
in our life.
we learned as much from y'all every time we were around y'all as
Mhm.
you would do from us. So it's just been a blessing.
I
Mhm.
tell you what, you guys are fountains of joy everywhere you go. And we just love the joy of the Lord that you spread like an infectious disease.
You know what I say about that? Out of the abundance of the heart,
Yes.
the mouth speaks.
Speaks.
And like Chief alluded to, there was something that changed us years ago. I'm sure we'll get into it, but our walk and joy is just overflowing.
And
So-
to whom much is given, much is required.
Ooh, that'd be a good script.
So speaking of what is required, tell us what you guys do.
Well, together we have a fellowship that we facilitate. I'm not a pastor. I fight any kind of title like that. You know, I'm just someone that helps everybody meet on Shabbat along with Wendy. And we have our fellowship they're like second family to us. We communicate all week. It's just been a true blessing.
And the Father just keeps growing it. We started out 2 couples on a couch and
Yeah.
grew out through the home. Now we've outgrown our church and we just keep growing. Now we meet on 40 acres at an Audubon Society Center. And it's just amazing what the Father just
Wow.
keeps doing.
Hey,
Just collecting people everywhere.
I did not get that update. So you guys are surrounded by birds on Shabbat. That sounds like
Mhm.
Yeah.
wow.
Not birds that you would like. These are all just birds of prey and stuff.
Oh
No.
yeah, not any that I would have any connection with
Hey,
whatsoever.
that's the whole reason why hawks like landing on top of church steeples, because they're birds
Wow.
of prey.
Oh,
It's awesome.
Goodness,
But
please
yes,
call
it's an
them out.
100-year-old building that's windows all around, and we can just open up all the windows, and it's like we're outside. No
Yeah,
time limit
no
and
time
no
limit. That's a blessing.
charge.
At the church we was at before, we
It's
get there at
amazing.
12, they wanted us out by 5. But as you know, some Shabbats aren't a great Shabbat if they don't end at like 10 o'clock at night or something.
Yeah.
Or 10
We
o'clock
ended
the
up
next
with a-
morning.
Yeah.
The next morning.
Yeah, we ended up with a new member coming to our group, and he found out that we needed a place, and he said, "Well, I'm the manager at the Audubon Society."
Woohoo! Oh, yeah.
Wow.
So,
Yes.
Exciting.
you know, we don't really have to do anything. The Father just keeps doing all this stuff, and we're like, "Let us catch up."
Yes, and there's other stuff he's
Yeah.
doing besides your congregation. What else?
We have the pickler business.
Yeah, Perfect Pickler. So
Yeah.
we do local workshops and teach people about fermentation and gut health.
Yeah, and if
Mhm.
you're the people watching this don't know about vegetable fermentation, you really need to look into it. It's extremely nutritious.
Mhm.
It makes it, I like to say it turns the produce in your refrigerator into superfood, which is
And
Mm.
and last year, Wendy taught one of the firekeepers classes on fermentation. It was an amazing weekend. Everybody
great
who attended
reviews.
loved it.
Oh,
So
good.
not so local to Florida. I would call her. You guys now are international sensations happening as we
world
speak.
famous.
Blowing
Well, I
up.
always like to say, you know, if you want a body like his,
There we go.
get into fermentation.
What's so
I
funny?
think
I'm glad we're doing Zoom on this.
yeah, I
with
think
video.
I think I've been fermenting something else.
Oh, but we should probably finish. You also like to do a lot of hunting and
Yeah,
fishing.
I'm love hunting and fishing. I'm a lifelong outdoorsman, and
Mhm.
I used to say just wasn't a great weekend unless some animal dies. And so love hunting and fishing, and I love apologetics. Like was in my introduction, I've loved apologetics my whole life. I came to a saving faith in our Messiah when I was like 13 or 14, and have been proving him ever since. I love debates with non-believers, because when you know that the weight of the evidence is on your side, it makes debate so much fun.
I've seen you in some of those debates and heard you, and
Yeah, Wendy gets
very
on to me though.
entertaining.
Wendy gets on me and says I need to cut back on the sarcastic comments.
Been working on it.
But I know Chief loves sarcasm.
Who would you be without the sarcasm? Not Dave. So tell us about give us the elevator version of your testimonies.
Yeah, me first or you?
Why don't you go ahead
Yeah,
first, love?
born and raised Assembly of God. That was, and I still consider myself Pentecostal in the core. But a couple of years back, we met some people that were saying some strange things that I'd never heard about in our gospel. And I'm the only one that could be willing to consider. Each of us have to be willing to consider that some things we've been taught our whole life may not be true. And You know,
You mean we weren't born into perfect
we
truth?
weren't in my denomination did not have every little thing.
You mean there could be doctrinal error in
There might
people's
be.
lives?
In all
Maybe with
40,000
other
denominations of Christianity, there
Not
could
with
be
the
error.
Pentecostals.
You
though.
mean
Not
that-
for Pentecostals.
You mean that we might see dimly?
Oh yeah, and just like I think it's Hosea 8:12 says, I've written awesome things to Ephraim, and he considers it a strange thing. I absolutely considered it a strange thing, but the more I studied it out, the more beautiful, and it is absolute treasure, as I know y'all know. And
Yeah,
now.
Hosea is one of my favorite Mexican prophets. He's just, you know.
I love that. Yeah. I was never Old Testament. Now they're so beautiful. The things that I should have been treasuring my life, my whole life is now they are. So
You know, one of the things that we find in the Old Testament too is there's the Creator who made our bodies tells us how to eat, that we're supposed to take authority over the land, and there's medicine and the plants and everything around us that He's made we have for the healing of our bodies and for the longevity of our bodies. I think that some of the reasons why people lived so long back during those times was because the environment was different and what they were eating and consuming and putting in their bodies was different.
Absolutely.
So tell us about your walk, Wendy.
So for me, I have no memory of not walking with my Savior. So I asked Him into my heart when I was like 4, and I stuck with Him like my closest friend. I lived out in the country. I didn't have, neighbor friends, and I spent my time in the trees and conversation with the Father and with Jesus as my Messiah. And so for me, he was just my closest friend. When I got to college, I remember being homesick. And I remember crying out and saying, Abba, you're my father. I just wish you could give me a hug. And He gave me one inside and out. It was unbelievable.
Wow.
It was so cool. And while I was in college, my car went in the ditch, and He actually lifted it out of the ditch and put it up on the road, and there was no tracks the next day.
That's crazy.
It's
Isn't
just unreal. I
That's
have
wild.
so many encounters that I've had with interactions with angels, just in terms of doing miraculous things in my life. It's just been incredible. I remember one time when I started kind of moving more into ministry as an adult, and I was kind of finding my identity, my role in the kingdom. I remember crying out and saying, who am I? And I actually heard Him out loud, and He said, you're my beloved, which was just unbelievable. And so after that, I started searching a little deeper and started wondering about the Sabbath day, and that led me down a whole new trail. And ever since, like Dave said, since we started keeping the Sabbath and observing the Father's feast days, I'm telling you, that felt like that's when we were reborn. It was so incredible.
Oh.
It's like it went to such a whole new level that it actually felt like new birth again.
It was.
Wow.
Just
And
incredible.
we were close before, but not like
Not
since.
now.
When you make a decision
it's
to
just-
walk with Him, He
Mhm.
will take 2 steps for every one of yours, I believe.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just
Well,
a whole new level, and we do feel like we're walking on the heights of the land.
Yeah.
It's just
we know how that feels because it was our next big jump in our spiritual walk too, when we began observing the festivals of the Lord and the Sabbath as He prescribes it. It was just simply amazing.
Which also, I mean, that was traditional to many of the native tribes, was keeping the 7th day of rest. And and as we started studying, when you read about the eternal covenant being broken, the eternal covenant is Shabbat. And there was so many consequences to the people of Israel for breaking that eternal covenant. But right now, what's happening just in the short time, I mean, we've been walking this for what, 16, 17 years or something
like that.
And but people thought we were crazy and insane, and now we see churches celebrating the feast, churches learning about the commandments and the blessings that come with them, and it's been incredible. And the most incredible thing to me is that no ministry can take credit for it. This is something that the Holy Spirit has done, affirming the words of the prophets thousands of years ago who said this was going to happen. The restoration is going to happen.
And
There's definitely a timing
if it's a
involved.
foreign
Amen.
thought for you to hear what Joseph said, that the eternal covenant is Shabbat, do a word study, because you can just Google the terms or search for the terms eternal covenant Sabbath, and you'll find the scripture there. It is written. You'll find the scripture there, and it's fascinating. Well, I want to get into some of the skills that you guys have so you can share some of your, we both were just talking recently about how we have a passion, and the Lord has put it in our hearts to really focus on practical ways that the body can increase their skills and their knowledge to prepare for more difficult times, and just to pass down some of those homesteading and traditional life skills that are being lost. And so in thinking of that, Wendy, what do you believe would be some of the most important skills for people to have during the upcoming times?
So I think water has to be top of the list. You know, you can only live so long without oxygen, and then water, and then food. So I definitely put water on the top. Make sure that you have a source for water that's not dependent upon the electricity, or things of man, that you can get water, and then make sure you have a way to filter it. And one of the most exciting things I've been working on for our training center in Liberia that we're getting ready to do is simple solutions for distilling water that anybody can do. And you really only need a tarp and a shower curtain liner and a water bottle. And you can actually construct this kind of a bladder thing that you can hang outside in between buildings or trees and get water to distill, to evaporate and distill, which is amazing. And if you live in a dry area where you're not getting enough rain, you can plant more trees, because trees bring the rain. Yes. And so, really studying water, I think, is the most important thing. Make sure you have that figured out. I'm not talking about filling up bottles with a drop of bleach and putting them in a closet. That's not renewable, sustainable. I'm talking about, you need to know how you can provide water for yourself. But look at our creator's environment. He's created this whole process of distillation already, for moisture to, trees bring it out of the ground, it goes into the air, it comes back down. So let's mimic what he does, create a system that can collect that water.
So do you have a blog where people can go and read something like this that you might recommend?
I have a way that we could share it, maybe through your platform on Firekeepers. I'm running so fast right now to take the time to sit down and blog. But we could partner together and find a way to get that information out. But Absolutely. In addition to water, the next thing I would say is calorie crop security. You have to have calories. Make sure you know either wild edibles or you're planting calories. And then after that, you worry about the nutrient density. You can almost always find greens for nutrient density. And then beyond that, I'd probably say vinegar, because, vinegar not only is great for bathing, it can be used in place of soap. It's great for hygiene, for disinfecting, but you can use it for medicine as well, to create tinctures so that you have your medicine laid up. So I think those are my top 4, water, calorie crop security, nutrient density, and vinegar.
Excellent. Yeah. And one of the things to consider is crops that will provide carbohydrates and protein, as well as your vitamin and nutrients.
Yeah, exactly. Learning what those superfoods are that are in your area or region.
One of the things that I'm focusing on is preparation for, I'm writing something that is foraging edibles that you can actually cultivate. So they're wild edibles that you can re-indigenize into your area, and some of them are considered invasive. There's a new term called invasivore, and I love it because some of these plants are considered invasive to the point where they can get out of hand, but if you're eating them, then it's like having this abundant, renewable, perennial crop that's good for medicine, that's good for food. And, you can eat it to keep it in control. Some of these things are invasive because they're not eaten, and they're meant to be medicine and food. So
I believe that's why they are invasive. It's the Father's provision, and we're driving over it and going to the store.
And spraying it with weed killer. What in the world?
Yes. And so many plants have multiple functions too. Like you mentioned protein. Well, you can grow beans, but the leaves are edible. So you can actually get greens out of the leaves.
And
as
there
well.
people are letting them wither and die.
Yeah, and you can dry them, grind them into powder, and have concentrated nutrition, on hand year round.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Dave, you're an avid and accomplished hunter.
Accomplished. Yes.
Accomplished hunter. And with many, many different skill sets when it comes to hunting and fishing and all those outdoor things. Would you share with our listeners 2 top tips for a successful hunt and one of the most unique ways that you've ever skinned a deer? 'Cause I saw a video and I think it was you.
It was. Well, I think you shared that video with me. It was actually many years ago. I belonged to a hunting club in South Carolina, and on the weekends they would have what they call these doe hunts, where they was trying to thin out the herd, and there'd be 10 or 12 deer to be cleaned at the end of the day. So they found this one guy showed a quick way to do it, and he would use the truck, and they would put a golf ball under the skin and tie a rope to it so where it couldn't slip over. And they would use that truck to pull that skin off that deer. It was off like that. It was really cool to watch and stuff. So,
and that can be such a tedious process to remove the skin from the deer. So, and it's so easy to nick it accidentally. Yeah. And so when you see a process like that, it's amazing how much faster and easier and effective it can be.
Yeah, I think it's good to know the skill of how to do it without a truck, though, because you don't always.
Yes, of course. Yes. And what are 2 tips that you would give?
2 tips. A lot of people are used to going to Publix or the supermarket for food, but in hard times, and you're going to have to start getting your own food. A firearm is the easiest way to get food. I've harvested. That's the word I use. Hundreds of deer with a rifle. So now I've moved into mainly bow hunting, but if I was starving, I would be a firearm service, and firearms, as you know, are easy to come by. But even deer, you don't have to shoot deer. You can live off there's a lot of clean animals out there you can use that you could shoot, or even fishing. I told a guy a long time ago that if you knew how to use a fly rod, you will never go hungry, because any body of water that has fish in it, a fly will catch them. And so it's just a great tip for getting food. And but yeah, I think a firearm, if people have bows and arrows, then I would naturally recommend a compound bow. But if you're into a recurve bow, then just practice, and it's amazing how close you can get to animals and take them. So
and the tactical advantage of using a bow and arrow.
Tactical advantage. So and that's almost all I use anymore is a bow. I don't know, it's just the primitive way to do it, and it makes you have more skill to actually take an animal. And Wendy and I, we've cut way back on our meat consumption over the years. Used to 2 or 3 deer would take us to get through the year. Now 1 deer easily covers our meat requirements for the year. So knowing that I'm only going to need 1 deer a year, we watch a lot of deer walk by during hunting season, waiting on that perfect one, that old bull like Chief.
Rendering the fat, and I love the fat.
You do remember you have friends up in Tennessee who would be happy to take any excess venison off of their hands.
Yeah, we do have a deer crossing sign out here, but I believe it's the only deer in this county, and that's why they put a sign up for them, because we don't ever. We saw 3 or 4 last year. We
don't see them very often in our neck of the woods, and I was raised on venison and wild turkey.
Yeah, her grandfather.
We'll be discussing protocol later.
Oh, okay. Well, let's go from meat to this really funny sounding thing called einkorn. I'm gonna go get it so our viewers can see what it is.
Wendy, you introduced me to einkorn in a new way to make sourdough bread, a very forgiving way, which I love and appreciate. Would you talk about einkorn and why it's so important?
Sure. So first of all, einkorn is not corn, it's wheat. A lot of times people get confused with that, but it's the oldest form of wheat that we know of. So it has the least amount of chromosomes than any other wheat. But why is it so important? Woo, looky
She's reaching for it. She's reaching for it through the screen.
So here's einkorn. Go ahead.
Yes. Okay. So, today you see stamps on all the packages. It's non-GMO. It's non-GMO. But what happened to our wheat is actually different than genetic modification. And that's why it's so important to go back to these ancient grains. So it really started in 1943 when everybody was all distracted with World War II. The Rockefellers got together with the Mexican government and they opened this improvement center to improve our grains. And the way they did it, because that was before genetic modification, they exposed the seed and the embryos to different harsh chemicals to try to bring about mutations. So the chemical that they landed with was sodium oxide. And this chemical is so powerful, if a human got in contact with it at all, there was sudden death. And the CDC actually said, do not provide like CPR or rescue services to that person who died, because you'll die too.
Wow.
In fact, they said if the person vomits, don't clean it up or don't put it down a sink because it could explode, which actually that's happened.
Man.
And so when they exposed it to this chemical, it created thousands of mutations. So it's a totally new plant that never existed in history. A lot of times people say, well, einkorn has less gluten, I can tolerate it better. No, it's not about being less gluten. The issue is the gluten that's in modern wheat never existed before, ever. Our body can't recognize it. It's a totally new, mutated substance. Our creator did not create that. It's not food, according to our creator, according to his system. And sadly, 99% of the wheat grown worldwide has been altered by this seed. So you can buy something today that it's organic. That just means that pesticides were not used in the process of raising that, but the seed itself was altered in 1943.
Wow.
So
we're having a similar issue with all the indigenous corn, the maize.
yes.
And so many of it's getting hybridized and GMO'd, and the original native corn. There's only a few places that are still able to grow it without that interference, and it has to be a controlled environment now. But indigenous farmers are scared because of just the overflow, seed, pollen.
That
and
corn pollen travels a long way, miles.
Yes. Yeah, that's a huge issue. And in fact, that's one of the reasons why we're excited about Liberia with the 350 acres. And the government of Liberia is in support of restoring these ancient grains.
Wow.
So we're pretty excited about that. And there's testimonies there. But to finish the question about sourdough, since that's the question at hand, this is a simple trick. If you mix up your bread dough,
now, are you talk about which flour to use when
yeah, you're right.
Yes, the flour is key.
That's key. Thank you very much. Okay, so einkorn doesn't like to be kneaded. So it's the easiest bread out there to make. Okay. So once you get that,
does that mean it's not needy?
No, it's not needy. Super simple. And,
with a K.
Yes. And you can find recipes online. You can contact us if you need one. There's some great books on using einkorn flour because it reacts different. But if you're still using up your modern wheat, a trick for making sourdough is to not put the salt in when you mix up your bread dough. And if you leave the salt out, the microbes will actually do the same thing that kneading would accomplish. And it's very flexible in its time. So you can mix up the dough, leave it go until you think of it, or you look at it and I'll go and give it a turn or two and then go back to what you're doing. And throughout the day, you can go and give it a turn or two and then work the salt in, at some point, maybe halfway through the day, and then give it one more rise and put it in a pan and bake it. And it actually makes it so flexible. We're driving down the road and I've got my bread dough rising in the back seat of the car, and it can just go with me and handle whatever I need it to do. It can be very flexible. So
I loved about that recipe how you don't have to measure. I was taught in making bread that measurements are so important and you need to get everything just
precise.
And that's not the case.
Mm-mm.
And I just watched you dump things here and there and not even really try to measure. And I was like, what is this new method I must learn? And it was really
well, it's just getting the moisture right. And once you learn what that looks like, to get there. But if you added too much water, add a little more flour. If you added too much flour, add a little more water. And bread is actually the best place to hide leftovers. You can just throw anything in bread. It's
There you
awesome.
go.
Well,
And-
but bread also has a very prophetic meaning for you from like a month ago.
Yes.
Why don't you share with everybody what Creator showed you when we were down at the harvest stomp?
When we were in prayer for a word with a tribe, we were in prayer for a word concerning the future and what the Father wanted to speak to us. And I saw a vision of a bread basket with concentric circles, and I knew that had to do with like family, and then extended family, and
Communities, yeah.
tribe and community. And I heard the Lord say, your bread, times of scarcity are coming. Make sure your bread basket is full. And so to me, what that says, I take that both literally and figuratively. And, are you prepared for what's coming? Are you, whether it be a storm that's knocked out power, do you know how to provide for your family during that time? I mean, Wendy and Dave, y'all live in Florida, and you see storms come through there all the time, and people who are not prepared and are reliant on other people to take care of them. So the question is, will you be able to take care of your family, whether it's a 24-hour emergency or whether it's years and years of having to live in a method that is reliant on nobody but the Creator and the skills and knowledge and what's at your hands.
Mhm.
At your
Let me
fingertips.
interject. Wendy loves when a hurricane knocks power out here. She is living the dream. I mean, she's like, it turns into a whole new animal. Isn't that true, love? She loves having no power.
Peace.
As long as the claws and fangs don't come out.
She likes her electric bike.
Oh.
She doesn't like it. So
Yeah.
she's living the dream. You know what a lot of people consider a horrible situation, Wendy is loving.
She is a
But-
special kind of something. And she
Oh.
has her own cooking gas hooked up to
Yes, biogas.
biogas. And so
Gas.
she already has literally nothing goes to waste.
Right.
Yes,
Ah.
it becomes gas for cooking fuel, which is another thing in Liberia. We want to teach them, make your own fuel. It's awesome.
It's very efficient.
Yeah. But I wanted to make one comment about what Laura Lynn had said about bread. And that is that Yeshua himself compared himself to bread,
Mhm.
and that's the staff of life. Do you think he would compare himself to a loaf of Wonder Bread?
He definitely wasn't white.
Yeah. No.
My
But
goodness.
but wheat should be the staff of life for us. And if you can only store one food to get a storehouse going, if you store wheat, you can not only make the bread, but you can grow wheatgrass to get the chlorophyll and all the micronutrients that you need. And you can
Wow.
complete the whole thing with just wheat. So it's amazing.
Well, and we were just talking about the biogas, and you were have something that has to do with fiber and beans that we were hoping that you would share. Yeah. speaking
Another form of gas.
Yes.
Yes.
And we actually had
All right.
someone at a Passover Seder ask me if I had massaged the flatulence out of the beans, and I had.
Seriously?
I am 100% serious at a Seder Passover. I did not know how to answer the guy.
But actually, that's literally a term that you can research it. There's a way to prepare beans that it's called massaging it.
Yeah, but I'd never heard of that.
Yeah.
So some guy that you never meet comes up at a Passover and says, "Did you massage the flatulence out of the beans?" And I'm like,
It's not some manual technique.
I'm like sitting there picturing like massaging the beans.
Oh my goodness. So tell us about fiber and beans and why you have such a passion for this.
Okay. Well, it's really all related to gut health, which is why I'm so passionate. But, people think of fiber, they think of it as just passing through you, and maybe it'll act like a broom and clean you out on the way. But that would be true of insoluble fiber. But if we look at soluble fiber, it's a whole nother ballgame. And soluble fiber, it can create like this gelatinous kind of a texture, and it will literally grab like spent hormones and other toxins that need to be removed from the body, and it'll take them out of your body so that you can actually have your hormones balanced, which I think is amazing, because even stress can produce excess hormones. And so you get this imbalance, but if you have enough beans in your diet, you can actually pull that out and get it out of the body. So it actually takes it, gets it out of the body, in the toilet it goes, gone, which is so cool. So, but fiber in itself is important to realize that fiber is actually a prebiotic. So if you're looking at your gut, you have a prebiotic. What is a prebiotic? It feeds the good, healthy organisms in your gut. What are the good, healthy organisms? Probiotic type substances, right? So you have a prebiotic that feeds the probiotics, and then the probiotics, they have a byproduct too. They create small chain fatty acids, and small chain fatty acids have one major job. They go around and heal and seal the lining of the gut. So if you want to heal your gut, it starts with fiber, which I think is amazing, because we got in all those fads, bone broth all day long. And I'm not saying that bone broth isn't good. It's great, but you have to have fiber. You really have to have that. And if you starve your microbes, they will literally go extinct. And while they're dying off and starving, they get desperate and they start chewing and eating at the lining of your gut, creating tears, which is leaky gut. And that's actually another issue with the beans. The bacteria that break down and digest the beans, if you stop eating beans, they go extinct. So then you try to eat beans again and you get gas, because they're not there to break it down. So if you eat if you eat beans on a regular basis, you won't have gas anymore. And that takes about 2 weeks. And I think that's what's so amazing to me about our Creator, is that the bacteria we need comes with that food when you start eating it again. That's so cool. And we should have around 36,000 strains of good bacteria in our gut, and the average American has 300 to 1,000. So everybody wonders, do I need to be concerned about my gut? Yes, everybody does.
Well, when the average American diet consists of sugars, processed foods, fast food, takeout, preserved foods, it's wrecking.
It's called sad for a reason.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when they were showing the food pyramid, teaching us that as kids in school, and the biggest part of the pyramid was carbs. Just load up with carbs in the morning, carb, which for a kid, that I think would work, because you need the energy. But as you get older, if you over carb, that's not good.
Well, they've also changed our carbs into something toxic and poisonous today. So that's quite interesting too. Tell us to eat something that they know they've changed.
Yeah.
But and the other thing about why beans are so king is that they're 70% soluble fiber, which is huge. And if you sprout them, you get 233% more soluble fiber. So that's
sprouting is amazing. The whole process of sprouting to me is fascinating, that you can take something that's kind of in a coma. It's just dormant, sitting there, this little nutrient package. And then when you add water to it and time, the nutrient density multiplies many times over. I mean, how is that just water, without any other nutrients in there, and it doesn't even require sunlight, but yet it can multiply in itself? That to me is one of the most amazing evidences of Creator. Just the process of sprouting, that it's making energy out of nothing.
Right.
It's programmed into itself already. Yeah.
It's amazing.
And even in the very early stages, there's like a whole factory going on within that seed that's generating all these nutrients. So depending upon which resource you go to, they'll say there's up to 400 times more nutrition in the sprout than the mature plant.
And that's amazing.
Well, speaking of energy, Dave, you work in the solar power industry now. And can you tell us ways that we can incorporate solar power into our listeners' lives that won't cost an arm and a leg?
Yep. Probably the easiest ways, and we've discovered several, is they've got some really awesome solar generators that you can buy that come with little small set of panels.
Showing that one.
Oh, matter. Just so happened.
We're powering our laptop with our solar generator right now.
Right here.
Oh,
Why am I
cool.
not surprised?
Wendy, I'm always looking for this, and Wendy's always got it somewhere doing something. But when
It looks
when
like
you're
Optimus
camping-
Prime's head.
You know, when we go camping, like Sukkot is 8 or 9 days, Wendy, make sure I have this, if no other reason than to run my CPAP and so you don't have to listen to me snore.
I thought you were going to say my blender.
Oh, no. But this is amazing, the amount of power that this thing stores and you can use. And we saw one, this is just a 300-watt system. And it's amazing what it does during the day. You know, you use it overnight, charge it next day. But we saw one the other day that was like 1,100 watts. I mean, just unbelievable how these things are increased. This was just, I want to say like $100 or something.
Yes,
Wow,
the
what
one he's
brand-
talking
What
about.
brand is it? 'Cause we'll put a link in the description so people can check it out. What is that?
Yeah, this one is overseas model. It's hard to read it.
It's probably
We've
not
had
the
this
one.
a bunch of
Yeah,
years.
if I was going to recommend someone to buy one, I would probably recommend GoSun.
Yeah, this is an older model. Yeah,
Yeah.
A lot easier to get one. That's
Yeah.
better than this one.
GoSun, they
GoSun?
sell one for around $500, and it's powerful enough that during the hurricane, our friends were able to power their refrigerator for half the day and then power their freezer for half the day and go back and forth.
Wow, that's
And you-
cool.
So
Is
You
it
can
about
see
the same
has a little
size?
port- Has a little port on the end for plugging in the solar panels. So you just throw it outside when it needs to charge.
and you can
And
also
also charge it from the wall unit too as well.
wall
You
unit,
see
and
the
you can
nice
charge it from a
digital
vehicle.
display. Yeah, so
You can
these
use
are
the vehicle to
awesome.
recharge them. They're great.
You know, residential, let me finish. Residential, the solar industry I'm in is the grid tied, the big ones that you pass on the
Commercial.
interstate, miles across the panels. Well, the residential stuff, if you were to contract someone to come do it, it's very expensive. I say very expensive. It takes years to recover the cost. So unless you really have a link to someone to get you the panels cheap or donate them to you, yeah, that's the best way if you want residential. But if somebody's wanting to get started, these are a really great jump start to learn, teaching you what solar can do.
And we've had panels donated to fire keepers and to us, but I've found that even pricing the inverters and the
Inverters,
batteries
batteries.
and the stands and all that, even if we make stands out of materials that are on hand, that's still terribly
It's still
expensive.
pricey, yes,
Mhm.
yes.
So,
So yeah, to get started, get one of these small portable units. We can throw the link into the GoSun, right?
Yes, we can.
That's
I
a
also
great one.
think it's extremely important to try to reduce your need for
Yeah.
that electricity.
Yeah.
If you can get to where you don't need a lot, then you don't need to buy a lot of panels.
Which is what Sukkot is good for. It teaches you what you minimally need.
yes,
Mhm.
Sukkot being the Feast of Tabernacles in the fall, that's mentioned
thank you.
throughout Scripture and is an amazing study. We're going to be doing a teaching on that one coming up. So
I
look forward to
actually
that.
saw during one tabernacles down in Macon, Georgia, a tent, and attached to the tent was this makeshift air conditioner on stilts.
Wow.
They had AC going into their
Wow.
tents.
Air conditioning.
That's-
Talk about glamping. Talk
Yeah.
about
We're
glamping.
showing up with the generators and stuff, we're not really learning skills,
No offense.
but no offense.
Yeah.
So Dave, on your prior visit to Africa and you've met some incredible people over there. Pastor Ernest is one of them.
You mentioned protocol earlier.
Yeah.
So tell us, what did you mean by protocol? Actually, tell our audience, because I think we probably have a fair understanding about it, but explain protocol gifting and the role it played in your prior visits to Africa.
Well, we were introduced to protocol gifting from some dear friends of ours, the RiverWinds. I don't know if y'all know them, but that, as soon as they came and visited us a couple of years back, and they brought protocol gifts to the people that were hosting us, and that was just to me a no-brainer. What a great honorable thing to do for anyone who's hosting you in your travels. And there goes Wendy, go show some. So and we have incorporated that not only overseas but locally. There's a lot of opportunity to use protocol gifts but especially overseas. We visited this church, and they were the host church. So we planned when we went there. There's a lot of the older African people that couldn't read anymore. So we took them the little reading glasses, and you remember the reaction when they put those glasses on, and it was like they were just given new life, wasn't it?
And we didn't tell them what we were going to give them. We asked that anybody who is struggling to read anymore because their eyes have become dim, if they would please come forward. Yeah. And they came forward, and we had just bought all these Dollar Tree glasses, $1 a piece. Yeah, just $1 a piece. And
treasure.
And we had them choose a pair of glasses and try to read the word, try to read the Bible. And what was their reaction?
Oh, that was just, half of them were jumping and hollering.
Yeah, jumping and la, 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 on and on and on. And we would swear that they were literally blind and had just been given new sight, like restored sight. It was
how happy they were, huh?
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm sure y'all have many examples.
And they have 40 people jumping up that had just received their sight. It was incredible.
But it's not so much the reaction so much as just the honorable thing to do. Mm-hmm. And it has just been a real blessing when we get those out there.
So we're stepping up our game with our protocol gifts this year.
Yes.
We definitely want to.
We brought our A game this time.
Yeah, they are Dollar Tree glasses this time.
So when we talk about honor, we want to give honor where honor is due too. And we learned protocol from our elders, and it's just a traditional Native way, and not just Native Americans use protocol gifting. The scripture talks about it. Abraham paid protocol to Melchizedek by gifting him. And it says in scripture that a gift opens the door.
Yeah, and we just read in I think it was 2 weeks ago where Esau received protocol gifts. Remember the sheep and the goats and everything that his brother was sending him.
His brother came back.
And look at how the brother reacted. Even though the one brother was thinking, "Oh man, I hope this appeases him." It opens doors. And in the New Testament,
I'm going to send my wife there first.
So when you look at who basically literally wrote the book on protocol, it's Dr. Sukina and Kwamanik Sukina. And that couple have been amazing in examples of how to protocol, how to honor, how to bless people with honor. That's really a love language.
I think we gave you all their book, Warfare by Honor. Which gives different examples of protocol and what that did when the first Native contingency went to Israel. In the New Testament, Yeshua is teaching, and he talks about the thieves and robbers climb over the fence. They don't come in through the sheep gate. Yeah. Protocol is coming in through the sheep gate.
So we can also put a link for that for their website if you're interested in learning more about how to honor and how to have the doors open through protocol and gifting. Then check out the link for Indigenous Messengers International, and we'll put that in the comments or wherever.
Mm-hmm. We typically have used it in situations where someone is hosting us in their home. Is there other places that
or their church?
Or their church, yes. Is there other options that you've seen?
Anytime, like we went to meet with the mayor of our county, and we went down into town, and it was a very God-ordained meeting because of the gifts that the Holy Spirit said, bring these specific gifts to the mayor, and it was one of those things where mayor doesn't know who we are, doesn't know us. We're presenting ourselves before him, bringing in protocol gifts. He sees one of the gifts. He looks at the secretary and says, "We got to go into my office." And he shuts the door.
How did you know?
How did you know?
Are you serious?
And wow. I mean, and it was an incredible moment.
It's opened doors for us governmentally in Washington, D.C., in the state capitol, with Congress people, with Brigitte Gabriel.
It's honor. It's about honor. And honor is something that's so lost in today's generation. Typically, when you have a generation that's raised during war times, as we have, but more specifically the older generations, there's a concept of honor because it's part of a warrior code. But now things are getting so crazy in our world today. And I'll tell you what, we were coming back from California a couple of weeks ago, and this little 10-year-old girl, what she was saying to her mother, like, we just wanted to turn around and it's like there's just no honor. So we're so thankful that you're continuing this honoring tradition, because it does open doors, it does bring favor, and it brings the blessings of the Creator upon what you're doing.
Well, will you guys tell us about, tell our listeners about the Liberian project with Pastor Ernest Moore, who is a friend of ours that you introduced us to. And we're just so excited about what you've got going on next month and about sewing into that. And just, we are so excited. This has been a project that we've been discussing for over a year.
Yes, and many people have been sewing into this project because they see the beauty, the potential reward to these people here that we're going to be setting up this center for. Can you explain it a little better?
In Liberia, in Africa.
Yeah,
Yes,
Liberia.
yes, one of the poorest countries in all of Africa. They've had civil war for so long, and they feel like people have, a lot of non-for-profits have pulled out.
Yeah.
And, because their government has been so shaky. And so they just feel forgotten. But we're working with Pastor Ernest. He has 350 acres.
Yeah.
And he wants to actually gift 50 acres as part of this project, specifically for the training center. So that's amazing protocol gift right there, isn't it?
Hallelujah.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's a good number too.
Yeah, exactly. So, but the purpose of the training center is, we want to teach them self-sufficiency. So that, of course, includes organic gardening and nutrition education, natural medicine, income generation, all of those things. But we want to actually go further and provide solutions for the extreme poor that have nothing. So, by showing them how to take their own waste products and generate cooking fuel, then their little money they have isn't being spent on firewood and charcoal.
Yeah.
And we can also teach them how to only need to use 20% of that fuel by using heat retention devices to continue cooking their food. We can show them how to make simple water distillers, like I mentioned earlier, so they can have clean water without having to keep buying filters and, having to invest money in that. And even right down to teaching them how to grow mealworms so that they can actually raise chickens. And what are the solutions to not lose your chickens and to shelter and protect them? We've got some amazing ideas we've come up with for free to teach them how to let this happen. So hopefully at the training center, each student can go home with a hen. We can have a rooster per village. They can swap roosters between the villages from time to time or whatever it takes, and many hands will make light work as we teach these people. There is answers. When scripture says my people perish for lack of knowledge, we want to go there and bring the knowledge that's life-saving for them.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning before something, I think it was after your first trip, and you were explaining about how, I think it was corn was something that was all they were subsisting off of.
Rice, maybe?
Or was it rice? But anyway, whatever the crop was, and it was actually detrimental to the people to constantly have this in their diet.
Yeah, it fills their belly, but it leaves them nutritionally hungry.
Well, and they were eating the rice without the beans because beans will block the absorption of glucose. So they weren't balanced, but they were also eating the biotech engineered rice from the store. And that was one testimony that Ernest had, because after the pandemic happened, he could no longer go to the store and buy rice because there wasn't any. Supply chains were down. So we thought, that's it. I'm going to grow my own rice. Well, he grew an heirloom variety of rice. They call it country rice there. And he planted it. He thought the animals would take most of it because he couldn't afford fencing. He had such a high yield that it's enough food for him, the people that work on his farm, for over a year. We actually had to help him with harvesting it. But now he's a year beyond that time frame. And all of a sudden he's noticing my family's not getting sick anymore. Our heart, pains that we were having are gone. And they're having this amazing improvement in their health as they restored their father's grain and not the biotech engineered stuff that man is giving up for us in the store. And it's phenomenal. And even the guy who was running for presidency came out to see this man who grew country rice. And he got so excited, and he was like, Liberia is going to become independent. We're going to grow our own food. And so they're so excited.
That is excited because they were getting their rice from China before.
Correct.
And now they don't have to rely on that. The supply chain, you were telling me, broke down during COVID, and they were at risk of starvation when before they didn't have the issue of starvation, but malnutrition. So people were dying with full bellies, but malnutritioned.
Yeah.
And so now what's going on with what you're doing is, and what we're getting involved with to help, as many others are, is we are helping other people, and it's gonna be a pattern for us to have more knowledge, to be able to figure out what to do in end times, and to help prepare, to learn these skills and to understand the difference between them. And, many people might ask us, well, why aren't you doing something in America, RiverWinds? Why aren't you helping Native Americans? And right now we are helping the people who we can afford to help. We are helping the people where we can make the most difference
and make the most impact financially with our dollars. But that's not to say that we haven't helped our reservation communities across the country. We have helped during COVID, hurricane relief supplies. We've done a lot of stuff for Indian country. But the fact of the matter is that the US dollar can go a lot further in Africa.
Oh, yes.
And it's not, our desire is there to do something like this among our people, but it's just cost prohibitive right now. But we don't want cost prohibitive to keep us from being able to do something that's impacting communities now.
And we're going to the places where the people are out there ready and willing to work. And
they want to learn. They don't want a handout. They want to learn.
Politics are not getting in the way there. And sometimes that's an obstacle in many places, but they're eager to learn. They're ready to work, and they're not absorbed with technology and distractions. They are very focused on feeding their family. And when it can be done for such a little price, and to see that take place where it's not just helping a community, it's not just giving them a fish, it's teaching them to fish, so to speak. You're teaching them and creating a school where other people can come from different communities and villages and learn how to sustainably feed their bodies, treat their illnesses, and grow in health. And that's also taking care of the land. So it's a beautiful project. We wish so badly that we could go with you.
Oh, something I
so do we.
Something like to say is people don't care what you know if they don't know you care. So we want to go there and show them that our heart is to see them prosper. And then once we teach them how to deal with life, give them a center that'll teach them to deal with life, we get the opportunity to teach them about the way, which Pastor Ernest's eyes were opened years ago. And he's providing us, while we're there, an opportunity to speak to numerous pastors that are under him about this new way of looking at, well, I say new, this renewed way of looking. To teach them about God's feast days.
Getting back to
about
what's
walking,
written.
like Acts 21, how we walk upright before our Creator. And so this is going to be, I'm so excited. You know me, the tears start flowing, the arms start flailing, I start screaming and stuff. I'm so excited.
Well, how can our listeners connect with you to be a part of, if somebody wants to be a blessing on this trip to Africa and Liberia, to just help you guys? If somebody says, hey, I want to be a blessing, how can they?
Something I wanted to say here is our plane tickets have already been purchased and stuff. So the goal now is to get funds for setting up the center, mostly, wouldn't you say? Yeah.
The bunk beds are being built right now, but we don't have any mattresses. So it costs $110 per bunk bed set to get the mattresses and the pillows. The bedding was actually donated already.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
wow.
Yes.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, so that was
And
cool.
I bet more donations, once they see this thing off and running, that's going to pour in. I believe that.
Yes. So, but the best way to get connected with us would be my phone number. And that's, well, my name's Wendy Jackson. The phone number is 941-209-9356. And make sure to text me at that number, because I tend to screen my phone calls. I get a lot of spam calls because it's related to my business. So text me, and if you want to give a donation, but you also can purchase something and get something for your donation.
Right, yeah.
We
Do
have
we
these
have one
solar
close to
lanterns.
you?
I could get one really
Tell
quick
us
if you want to
about
keep talking.
them.
Please
We
stand by.
bought one and we're really
Get one.
excited about it. We just received it. And we also sent some to Puerto Rico.
Yep.
Actually,
Awesome.
our listeners sent some to Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
So thank you guys, because this is an
And
amazing
these,
way.
yeah, I was going to say, yeah, these lanterns, they lose power continuously in Africa. So these are just an awesome way for them to have lights and stuff. And go ahead, Lynn.
So these are actually going to be used as protocol gifts as well.
Yeah,
And
So-
just to
awesome.
clarify, when you were saying the lanterns lose power, you're talking about the lanterns they have now, not the lanterns you're about to show.
No, their homes lose power there. So
Yeah.
they don't have any light
Yes, it's a very frequent, probably 4 times a week, they lose power
for long
altogether.
periods. Yeah.
So for them to
remember
have this is an amazing protocol gift.
I remember living in a developing country and what that's like. Oh, yay, we have water 2 hours this week. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So when they come, they're really thin and flat, and then you can blow them up and then they get bigger. And they're actually waterproof. You can even float them on a lake and they'll just keep working, which is really cool. But they have a battery indicator light, but then they also have several different degrees of brightness. I don't know. Why don't is this one not on? Oh,
Hey, ciao.
there we go. And they get rid of, and they even have a beacon. I need help. But so what's cool is the lowest setting is plenty light to be able to see, to walk through rooms and grab something that you need. But if you need to read a book or need to do sewing, that highest setting is plenty for a task that you need to do. And then, you can either charge it with the sun, or you can use the USB port to charge this in about 2 hours if you don't have time to wait for the sun, which takes about 14 hours
If
of
you
good
have a
sunlight.
USB charging.
Yeah. But the exciting part is this is a 2-way port. So in an emergency, you actually can put power onto your phone.
Oh,
So
wow.
you can get up to 30% power on your phone. So it's not designed as a power bank to use every single day. It
To
probably,
get you through an
yeah,
emergency.
it's really there for emergency use. It's made every day for everyday use as a lantern.
Can
but
you
you can
imagine
use
what
that
these are
feature.
going to be like as protocol gifts over there?
Those
Yeah.
are,
Yeah, that's excellent
I
protocol.
love
gifts.
how creative you were about the fundraiser that you did. This was part of the fundraiser that they did for going to Africa and to do this, launch the school. And when you see the lantern and the fact that it's something that we each need in our own prepping, and yet it's benefiting a school being built in Liberia. I just really love that, because it's actually killing 3 birds with one stone, because they're also sending protocol gifts that are something so useful.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
kudos, you guys, on finding something so, just hitting the nail on the head, helping the listeners and the people that prepare and have something. So this is something that's good to go in the house. It's good to go in your go bag. It's good to keep in your car. And
Yeah, it's
so-
good to have multiple
Love it.
ones, because then you can charge multiple devices and stuff too.
But
But
this is,
these,
I think this is also Wendy's go-to Shabbat lighting.
Yeah,
She just likes the
I love
lights
it.
and the.
I love the feel that it gives in the house at night. So I use them frequently inside. I don't save them for emergencies. I like to use the things that I love.
Yeah.
But the company that makes these has a mission to light up all of Africa. So they
Oh,
gave us a
cool.
really good price on these so that we could make a profit and use it as a fundraiser. So our price is $50, which is the exact same price that you find online. We're not even charging extra.
Mhm.
So,
Wow.
but $50 you buy it from us, and it
So-
goes
Yeah,
to a
we cover the
incredible
shipping.
mission.
We cover the shipping wherever you're at. Just Yes,
Yeah.
give us the address.
Don't go to Amazon and buy this.
Or Walmart.
Buy
Don't
it,
go to Whaley Walmart.
buy it from the Jacksons. It's going
Yeah.
to be the same price and you get free shipping and you're going to be able
And-
to support an amazing
Mhm.
Yes.
And we take electronic payments, we can take PayPal and Cash App and Venmo and Zelle.
so the
We
phone
can even
number-
take credit card if need be. So they can just text us and, we'll tell them what we have available for electronic or a check in the mail too. But
You can put
Okay,
your
so
that at the
for-
bottom of your feed, right?
So for the people who were grabbing their phone, go ahead and repeat the phone number that they text.
941
We'll put it on.
209 9356. And we also have a heart to give some send a picture or some feedback to them later after we go this next month. So it's not just a donation and you never hear from us again. We want to give you a follow-up and let you see
Yeah, we'll see.
the things
We'll
that
send
happen.
pictures to the people that we have the information for, the emails, to actually
Yeah.
show them a picture of the lights working in a place that has no light. So be the light of the world in this Hanukkah season.
Well, speaking of being the light, Dave, I heard you share what you call the Strawberry Patch Gospel.
Oh,
Let's
you've
get
heard of the
into
Strawberry
this.
Patch Gospel?
Let's-
Have I told y'all the Strawberry Patch Gospel?
Yes.
So I know the Strawberry Patch Gospel, but I
look
think
at-
it would be amazing to hear.
Okay,
And
give us
just to
some room.
go out on this note,
Yep. He's getting all ready.
he's all excited.
He's all excited. He's getting
It
close
is.
to the
And
microphone.
don't judge me. I don't think I've ever told this without tearing up. So hopefully you can't see tears on my face there. I'll make sure it's shut.
Nothing to do.
I'm not
Nothing to
ashamed.
hide.
But just to let everybody know, this is what they call it. I know it's got a strange name, but this is this walk that we're in. We're saved by grace through faith in the atoning work of our Messiah. But because he did that, we show him our love by our obedience. And it's the only way from the front of the book to the back that he's ever asked us to show him our love. It's not by going to church or paying tithes or anything, but it's our obedience shows that we are serious about it. And
Well, tithing is a form of.
well,
Yeah.
but it's not showing him the love. Anyway, years ago, I'm going to shorten this up some. I found a brother in Ohio. I deer hunt up there during the prime time of November, and I said, I'm going to be in your area the first week of November to hunt, and I want to go to somewhere for Shabbat. I don't hunt on Shabbat, so I want to spend Shabbat with somebody, but you may know of somebody that has some land I can hunt. And this guy replies back to me on email, oh yeah, we'd love to have your son and you here for Shabbat. And by the way, I have 170 acres. Woohoo! I heard shofars and angels.
Full of deer.
So for Shabbat, I was in his house and his brother was there. So it's the landowner and me. We're both Torah people. Well, we were having a 2-on-1 discussion with his Baptist brother, who was a preacher, and was back and forth. And he looks at his brother. He says, Dave, and his name was Dave too. He said, this is how I see what we're doing. He said, if you remember when we were like 12 or 13, our dad had a strawberry patch that he spent all his time in, and he kept it weeded and pristine looking. And he loved that strawberry patch. And then he got in a lawnmower accident. His foot got tore up. And so he was in the hospital for over a week. And he said, if you remember, Mom came home one night after visiting and told us, your dad sure is concerned about that strawberry patch. And he said, she didn't say to go weed that garden. Oh my gosh, this is where the tears hit me. He said, Dave, if you remember, we talked among ourselves, and out of love for our dad only, we decided to go pull weeds. He said, we pulled weeds for 2 days. And when we got done, that strawberry patch looked like it had just been put in. And he said, David, when Dad came home, he was so overjoyed at what we had done for him because we were his sons, that if we'd have been old enough to drive, I know he would have took us and bought us a car. That was how overexcited, he just couldn't believe it. He said, if we'd have never pulled a weed, we'd have still been his sons and he loved us. But the fact that we went from our heart that extra mile to do that for him made all the difference. He said, this Torah thing, that's what we're doing. He's already saved us through faith. But because we love him, we walk as the Messiah walks and show him that love. And it was just, to me, it was just the most beautiful analogy. So I've used that all over the place. It's just a great analogy of what this walk is. We're just showing him that we love him. And boy, when you show him you love him, it makes all the difference in the world.
And this is why John
And
wrote.
then he blesses you.
Yeah.
This is why John wrote, if you love God, you'll obey his commandments.
John 14.
And his
21.
commandments are not burdensome.
1 John 5:3.
They're
Yeah,
not
they're
burdensome.
burden.
And
Yeah.
it's
And
not,
just as the Father said he would have bought a car, our Father wants to bless us
Yes.
Yeah.
in the same way. And that's why we receive these blessings.
Yeah.
and
Oh,
it's not about doing it out of because he commands us and we have to do it for our salvation. It's about because of our love and because he saved us,
And because
our
of our salvation.
desire to be obedient and to walk in a way that will please him and be a good reflection of who the Messiah was.
You know,
Yep.
something I love telling to other believers that I talk to about Shabbat. When God sees that you're willing to give up 1/7 of your life, you know, every 7 days is a day dedicated and set apart and kept holy for him. He knows you're not on the fence anymore. You're serious about it, you know, and he takes 2 steps to every one. I
I
believe.
like what Esther said
Oh.
when she could choose something.
Oh,
And she asked the eunuch, what will please the king?
that's awesome.
Yeah.
There you go.
What is the king like?
What is our king? So
Well,
ask yourself. That's all.
We have just loved, as always, we've loved our time with you. We see the Father deepening our connection with you guys, and we see the beautiful things that he's doing to
Amen.
to just show us the way for what we're doing in these end times to help the people, to help his people. And we just love you guys. We thank you for coming
Yeah, we
on.
love y'all guys.
Thank you for sharing your
Oh, interject.
Oh, what? P.S.
I do have to say this does impact people here because after we write those lessons for the training center over there, there's no reason we can't share those lessons with people here.
Yeah.
There you go.
Hallelujah.
There we go.
You guys are looking just salivating and chomping at the bits to hear these teachings. And the more you'll hear about them, the more you will just eat them up. They are wonderful teachings.
Amen.
So
Yeah.
thank you guys for coming on.
Yes.
We
Thank you
love
for your
you.
time. Thank you for sharing
We
your
love-
stories and your heart.
We look forward to hearing the report of Liberia, or if the Lord does a miracle, going with you. So many blessings, you guys.
Love y'all.
Keep them in prayer as they go, because Africa can be a very interesting place.
Yes.
Yes, they're working very hard to try to find a car to pick us up that has an air conditioner.
Isn't that
Oh,
sweet?
they're wanting to honor
Oh.
you guys.
And I was telling Wendy, it's hard to find a vehicle where we live that don't have air conditioning. That's the opposite of the spectrum, you know.
And what I
But,
love about you guys is that you don't even care that it has one.
No,
Oh,
no.
no, it's an adventure.
It's
Speak
like-
for yourself. Speak for yourself.
Dave's got to have,
We gotta,
Oh, I
he's gotta have his
gotta
bougie air. He's gotta have his bougie air.
creature comforts. Okay.
Oh,
But we love y'all.
guys.
Thank you for joining us, and we look
Bye-bye.
forward to seeing you again soon. And
Yeah,
also,
protocol's coming.
what's going to be coming this year for all of us?
Yes.
Amen.
Could be
We work
very
together.
interesting year.
Well,
Excited.
thank you all for joining us, and we wish you many blessings. As
Yeah.
Joseph would say, Siniko Kakuna.
Yeah, yeah, kakuna choreto
I
gua.
started to say that myself. Bye.
If you were blessed by the RiverWinds and would like to be a blessing in return, they welcome any donations to be given to their 501c3 nonprofit organization, Firekeepers International. This podcast is made possible by kind and generous listeners. And woohoo, tax deductible. That's what I'm talking about. You can learn more about this organization at www.firekeepersinternational.org and more about the RiverWinds at www.theriverwinds.com. If you enjoy Council Fire with the RiverWinds, please rate, review, and subscribe. If you didn't enjoy this podcast, then we thank you to keep your salty attitude to yourself, because gossip is an ugly sin. For everyone else, we hope to connect with you again next time on Council Fire with the RiverWinds.